Welcome to the Tuesday RotoWire Fantasy Football Podcast, the Jake and Joe edition, which will take place again every Tuesday leading up to the actual NFL playoffs. Today's show, we're going to focus on news and notes from recent training camps and preseason contests, but also some of our favorite players that we believe are going to outperform their ADP and get us all set, I guess Jake and I set, for the Stake League auction, which is going to take place in a few hours. So everyone, stick around. Welcome to the Tuesday. It's crazy. August 23rd. I'm like, it's just insane to think about where we're at right now in the month.
We've done it a month, right? We've 4 shows. We've done it about a month.
Exactly. Yeah. The August 23rd edition of the RotoWire NFL podcast brought to you by Dynasty Owner. I'm Joe Bartel. You can follow me at JB Fantasy Sports on Twitter. And as always, alongside me is Jake Letarski. Before we get underway discussing all the news and notes and the Stake League preparation and our ADP favorite guys that are going to be exceeding the ADP, I should say. Let's get a word from the sponsors, Dynasty Owner. Do you love fantasy sports? Are you ready for a new challenge this year? Dynasty Owner is the new way to play fantasy football with real NFL salaries, adding to the strategy of running an actual franchise. Dynasty Owner provides a unique and challenging experience that'll test your skills as an owner and general manager. You'll have complete control over your team's future. You can build the draft, make trades, sign for agents, and manage your team's salary cap. Can you create a dynasty of champions? Sign up now at dynastyowner.com. Use promo code ROTO5. That's ROTO5 to receive $5 off any new team. Jake, you've been doing this podcast now for a number of weeks with me. Who is the Expert League Dynasty Owner champion?
I believe that is me.
Wrong. No, it's me. No, you're.
You said Expert League. Expert League. That term gets thrown around. I'm talking staff. And even technically, then it's benzene. I'll give you that. But taking in the first 2 and 3 years is. I'm going to say it's me, but on Dynasty Owner,
yes, our Joe just
is the
Somehow
expert
we're already
championship.
Jumping ahead to Jake being selfish and discussing his Dynasty League like we do every week. That's like 10 minutes down the road. Jake.
Similar to my Stake League Dynasty of eating 5 out of the last 6 years, making all you schmucks pay for me, which we're going to continue this year.
I discussed Harry Thompson, our whiz tech guy from a couple of years now, being the 2-time winner. You are on a bit of a streak yourself with the 5 eaters in the last 6 years. I will change that this season. This is the year. I've been a little bit inconsistent. I think of the past 3 seasons, I've been a buyer in 2 of them. Yeah. We're changing it this year.
Hey, it's not a 0-sum game here. We can both be eaters and make everybody over on that side of the wall. Everybody over on that side of the wall. Now, after we go over each other's targets, we're definitely going to cannibalize each other throughout the entirety of this auction, aka salary cap draft here that we have going on here. But today we're going to get going. My mic's working. I'm happy to be here. We've got some slight bit of camp news and notes, and then we got 9 targets. Alan advertised 9 players that we're going to go through, and it's 9 guys that we look for. I did a personal analysis of my portfolio. That's only about halfway complete right now, but I did a personal analysis. Joe did the same. I looked at guys. I found a few common threads, guys that I think have the potential to way outperform their ADP where they're being drafted at right now. We'll use NFFC ADP when applicable. Our partners over there, they're a great site as well. And I think it's the best ADP data as far as, you're getting it from high stakes leagues. You're getting people that are putting a significant sum of money in there, significant to some, I guess we can say. A significant amount of money in there and are making decisions based on that. I think it's the most reliable. Again, don't ever be a slave to ADP, but it's helpful just to kind of see where you're at in these drafts here. So we both got a ton of targets to go by, but any news worth jumping into, Joe?
Yeah, Tom Brady evidently is not on The Masked Singer. I do not believe him for a second. I fully had bought into that conspiracy theory. I'm not sure if the listeners have been aware of what's going on. Tom Brady obviously has missed the past week and a half of practice. It was
personal reasons.
Yeah, it was evidently a scheduled time off. The team was aware of it. But the fact that we had very little data or an idea of when this was going to happen led some users on Reddit to believe that Tom Brady, in fact, had been participating in The Masked Singer. And it made sense because the training camp dates that he was missing aligned with when The Masked Singer had their televised audience there. Tom Brady squashed that, evidently, that he said he actually wasn't on there. I still don't believe you, Tom. I think, in fact, you are going to be the purple leopard or whatever you are.
Listen, hey, I'm not a big fan of The Masked Singer. I don't watch it personally, but what do you get personally for guessing it right?
For guessing the person who's actually singing it.
Yeah. What does the viewer get for guessing it right?
The kudos of the entire nation.
Oh, it's like a bragging rights thing.
Yeah,
okay, I got you. All right. There's no like fantasy mass singer or mass singer pools.
I mean, there probably could be. There probably should be, to be honest. For me, it's just the hope that you can turn off Terry Bradshaw singing because he actually was on the Masked Singer at one point, so you can just know you can turn it off early.
So was former Brewer great Eric Thames.
But really,
he was in the Korean version of it though.
Okay,
that's why he became such a superstar in Korea and with the KBO. And of course, any Brewers fan know his theme song. But let's get it back on track. Tom Brady's back.
Yeah.
Whatever for me from a fantasy standpoint, he's someone at 45 and they're like 30th NFL season can go ahead and take that time and be just fine. The concern with the Bucs, if it's even a concern at this point, is that every wide receiver on that depth chart seems to have a questionable tag, including Chris Godwin, Russell Gage. However, Mike Evans did come back to practice on Monday, yesterday. So he had been dealing with what appears to be a hamstring injury, and he's now back and good to go. Good news for the Evans shares. I think I have one, and the Brady Evans stack is still very much in play if you're looking for kind of a later round quarterback here. I think people have stopped trying to bet on the downfall of Tom Brady. They figure that he'll figure it out one way or another, and it makes him a top 10 quarterback in terms of ADP if we're going since August 1st. The funny part is if you take ADP over the last 3 weeks, essentially Tom Brady is ahead of Trey Lance, who is essentially half his age. So that's just a fun little fact there. But there's your Brady news. We got some more quarterback news though, right?
Yeah, it doesn't matter to me that Brady's out. Or that he returned or was out. I just want to say that. And Chris Godwin was a guy that I liked a lot in the 5th or 6th round. I will continue to make that choice. I had just missed him in my Beat Joe Bartel NFFC draft. That was the Pits, but I'm hoping to get more Godwin today. A bit of a spoiler for the Stake League auction. Yes, we do have a bit more quarterback news. Baker Mayfield has officially been announced as the starting quarterback for the Panthers. Really no surprise there. Had been hinted for the last 2 weeks that was going to be the case. Also not a surprise because Sam Darnold's not very good. And I'm not sure Baker Mayfield is either, but when it's a competition between Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield, there probably should be a pretty clear and obvious winner. I'm glad the Panthers came to that conclusion. I'd be a little bit worried otherwise. No, this does not change my opinion on DJ Moore, who I probably will not be drafting at all. And it's fine. Like I get the people who are saying, hey, 90-plus catches, 1,000 yards, it's guaranteed. Yeah. Fine. I just don't like that in the mid to late second round, which is where his current ADP is going.
Yeah, no, I'm exactly with you. I think this is good for DJ Moore, right? It has to be a positive thing, but also I still think his ADP is too high, and I'm only going to take him if he slips significantly.
Yeah, think about other guys. We loved Terrace Marshall last year. That was one of our patron saints of the Tuesday program. I'm not sure that really bumps him up significantly. And same with Robbie Anderson. This is to me,
Marshall's not even getting taken in 12-team redrafts right now, and rightfully so. He's holding up a roster spot on my Stellar Dynasty League team in case he comes back around here eventually. But I got to see something first. I haven't seen nothing.
Yeah, it's just CMC and DJ Moore, and I'm not interested in anybody else. Whether or not Baker was the starter or not, so fine.
Not a real big Tommy Tremble guy?
No, I think we talked about him a little bit last year, and I think in deeper leagues I did roster him for a bit and realized that was pointless.
2 tight end leagues only, right? Yeah. Just like Baker is relevant in 2 quarterback leagues only at this point. Except once again, like we've probably discussed on this show in the past, this is the waiver wire show. He's going to have some nice matchups here sooner or later against some bad defenses in that division or some teams that he'll have to play catch up against. There'll be times where he'll be streamable, but usually not someone you need to be taking as your second quarterback in a draft.
Agreed. We had a bit of training camp news in relation to guys that aren't playing to start the season. So we had Chase Young, not that that matters for fantasy purposes, placed in the PUP list out for the next 4 weeks for the Commanders. Jameson Williams, rookie draft pick for the Lions, also placed in the PUP list. He will be out for the next 4 games. This was not a surprise at all. In fact, when the Lions drafted Williams, it seemed to be with the assumption he was not going to play to start the year. In fact, I'm still thinking he's going to miss more time than just those first 4
I wouldn't be surprised if it's a redshirt year, and that would be enough for me to stay back in best ball. Maybe he's a guy that week 12, if somebody else on the depth chart gets hurt, he gets popped up on our waiver wire thing, but there's not much interest here for best ball. Tiny bit of interest in Dynasty if you're playing for the future.
Yeah, that's one of those guys that if you are doing a pretty sharp and competitive league, but one person is absent or just getting auto-drafted, they will almost assuredly get Jameson Williams because his ADP matches exactly 0 to where he should be going. I would not be drafting him at all. And for people that want to wait 4 or 5 weeks, great, more power to you. In keeper dynasty leagues, it's different, but right now, When it comes to regular season or redraft formats, no way I'm taking Jameson Williams.
Mm-hmm.
There is a bit of actionable news from this past week, and it was I think it was Saturday's preseason game with the Chargers.
Mm-hmm.
Isaiah Spiller, rookie 4th-round pick, who many speculated, including myself, to be that guy that takes away some of the carries for Austin Eckler. Injured his groin, he's going to be listed as week to week. That's not
a good sign. Obviously, when we're 2 weeks away from the season.
He already was being outplayed for that number 2 role by Joshua Kelly, who languished as a backup running back.
The amount of reps that he was seeing in the preseason was already discouraging, right? So, if you're playing that many reps in the preseason, not a good sign typically. And I put this on here because I wanted to get your Chargers take here. Jackson's out of the mix here. It's Kelly and Roundtree now are the 2 and 3 guys. We'll see if Kevin Marks or Letty Brown get roster spots. Seemingly unlikely. Practice squad at best here. So, when it all comes down to it here, I know, Austin Eckler at times has had his workload maybe monitored a little bit, and they want to spell him some. Is Josh Kelly just going to get a couple carries, or, coaches always say they want to save their guys, but then games come and you have to win these games, right? Is Austin Eckler, does this help his value any bit for you at all? Because there's less of a viable backup or less of a young talented guy they can give these carries to?
Yeah, so in full point PPR formats, Austin Eckler is going for 5-6 range, and I think rightfully so. Mm-hmm. There's some concerns with the guy that's small that maybe he can't hold up, and I think last year Eckler himself said that. In fact, I think of the 4 or 5 final games, he was a game time decision in 3 of them. The toll on his body really did add up. Now, can he do that 2 consecutive seasons? No. I think the Chargers appropriately invested in Isaiah Spiller with the assumption he'd be the one that takes the workload. I'm going to steal my answer on the Isaiah Spiller question from Mario Puig, because we did the show Friday, and we were already seeing Spiller losing time to Kelly, and this is before the injury even occurred. Mario had correctly identified, I think, or at least made a good point to bring up, that Kelly already knows the answers to the test because he's been doing this now for 3 years or 2 years. Like, he knows what the coaching staff wants to see. He's able to do the different runs and identify what plays they're trying to do. Like, again, he has the answers to the test already. So, of course, he's going to look better in a simulated practice environment, which is trying to make Joshua Kelly be a backup running back or anybody, but they're looking for the guy that fits what they're trying to do. Kelly knows that. Isaiah Spiller is a rookie, does not. From a talent perspective, Isaiah Spiller is the best backup for the Chargers. Yep. It's not even close. However, I'm not drafting him in the 10th round right now if he's going to be missing
absolutely not. So here's a dilemma regarding Eckler here that came up in one of my friends' leagues that was asking me for advice. It's kind of a format that you don't see all that often anymore. It's a 12-team redraft. It's full PPR. And it starts 2 running backs and only 2 wide receivers and a flex. So whenever I see these leagues that start only 2 wide receivers, I'm immediately saying you need to get your running backs even more. I emphasize that even more because, 1, it's only 2 wide receivers. You'll find guys, and 2, you can easily cycle out those roster spots with the waiver wire. So anyway, if you agree with me on that, my friend had the 3rd pick in a draft that, of course, started out Jonathan Taylor, Christian McCaffrey. 3rd pick. Justin Jefferson still?
Every time. Every time. I'm taking Jonathan Taylor 1-1. But if you did take Justin Jefferson 1-1, I get it. I completely understand. There's nobody safer who I still think has a ceiling they can hit than Justin Jefferson, and that's including Jonathan Taylor, who again is my best running back. No way. I'm taking Justin Jefferson. Every time.
I guess the one variable I should say is we were up in Packer country, but we ended up deciding on Eckler to, 1, get that running back, and 2, get that PPR. Now, if it were me, I personally think Derrick Henry's my RB2 no matter what, which we'll get back to later on a bit. But do you think in PPR Eckler is RB3? Or do we put Delvin Cook ahead of him? Because I think that's the only one that really makes a case.
I guess I would be willing to bet Eckler does not play 17 games this season. I don't think he can play 16. So if that's the case, and I'm feeling that way, no, I don't think he'll be RB3. But maybe on a per-game basis, there's still opportunity. And this is a guy that had 20 touchdowns. I mean, it's like Eckler's really good in the red zone. I think they'll use him similarly in that capacity because Larry Roundtree has not been it, and that's the only value they have is short yard situations for him. So, no, I'm still taking Jefferson.
It ended up being a very nice draft, though. They started Eckler and was able to get Aaron Jones on the way back, all the way back.
That's
so to get that 1-2 start here in a league that only starts 2 wide receivers, to have, you have the depth at running back needed just in case something happens, with Eckler for that week or 2 extra beyond his bye that he's out.
You talked about Aaron Jones on the way back. Shout out to Alan Seslowsky, who finished his one of the NFFC drafts he did earlier today. I think Chris Liss was in that one too. He had Justin Jefferson 1.3, which is my perfect start. I just mentioned that. Aaron Jones all the way back in the second round. I took Aaron Jones at pick 14 overall and still was fine with it in my NFC. And then got Mark Andrews somehow to fall to him in the third round too. There is literally no better way to start a draft than having those three selections work out for you in that favor. Credit to Allen on his draft, and I think he's already won that league. I said on Twitter too, but you can see the full draft.
Yeah, he doesn't seem as confident as you, but I guess we'll see.
He has to try to not have that confidence. If you want to jinx
exactly,
I'm doing it for him.
You need to make sure you hate your team, and then you'll be in the best possible scenario. Yep. Okay, I got you.
KJ Hamler returned to practice Monday for the Broncos. Obviously, it's important because Tim Patrick out for the season with that ACL tear. I think KJ Hamler is a really popular later round target. You can't even say last round anymore because he's going in rounds 12 through 14 on best ball formats. I think KJ Hamler in best ball makes more sense to me as opposed to redraft. But do you feel like that's a dollar days candidate for auction league tonight or today, I should say? Do you want to go that direction, Jake?
Yeah, we'll throw him out there. I mean, I think he was out there in round 16 in the latest underdog best ball I did. So maybe the price isn't crazy because people they do get the sense that you normally the year after the major injury isn't really typically the breakout year for most of these people, especially young players like this. So I think next year we'll be discussing KJ Hamler a little bit more in depth. Maybe he finishes strong at the end of this year and starts to really go nuts. But yeah, we'll see. And like you said, Mecole Hardman, he's back. Mike Evans is back. Terrace Marshall is back. If there's any, at least with Evans and Hamler at his status, if there's any doubt about drafting those guys, or maybe docking them a little bit in the rankings, I think that's been erased.
Am I reading this correctly? Kenyon Drake was officially cut. Is that actually correct?
I believe.
I know yesterday he had reported that he was going to be cut, and the thought was with Kenyon Drake saying that they're looking to get a trade, but a team would have to acquire essentially $11 million.
I am looking at the Raiders depth chart on the RotoWire.com site right now. We list Josh Jacobs number 1, Zamir White number 2, Amir Abdullah number 3, Brandon Bolden number 4, followed by a bunch of other guys that are getting cut.
No Kenyon Drake in there.
So I believe Kenyon Drake has officially been cut.
So that's an interesting one for me. I had said, 3 months ago, someone had asked who's going to be the starting running back for the Falcons, and I said, I'm not sure he's on the roster yet. Now Cordell Patterson's going to be there, and I think he is by default the candidate for that. But a Kenyon Drake in that capacity, or let's say the Browns end up trading Kareem Hunt, who had requested to be traded a couple of weeks ago. Kenyon Drake's an interesting name who I don't know if he's super talented, but he can do running and passing stuff enough where, okay, a team will certainly take a chance. He will be on a roster. Is he worth being on your fantasy roster? My say is no, but we need to actually see which situation he falls into. Yeah,
I mean, if you're waiting till the Monday of Labor Day weekend to have a draft Labor Day itself, and he's signed and the circumstances are favorable, maybe you take him in the last round, but for now, he can be safely ignored.
I like that this comment here in the document says, damn, Kyle Pitts looks like a stud wide receiver. Yes, Jake, I have. We talked about people.
I wanted to give you a chance to reaffirm.
Roster across our leagues right now. I think Kyle Pitts is probably at a 75 or 80% roster rate for me in the redraft leagues, and just about
to reiterate, automatic third round Kyle Pitts.
Automatic third round. We're not getting to the point where I'm taking him second round, but
I did that with him in a best ball yesterday, and I was very happy with that. I can get by with that role.
He's like wide receiver 12. Like but he's tight end. You get him for a tight end, like wide receiver 12.
Yeah, well, I mean, you asked what changed since last week. He actually played in the preseason game. He lined up, not on the line of scrimmage, lined up, split out, burned the defensive back, caught the pass for a 50 or 52-yard gain, something like that. It's amazing that you can start him at tight end is essentially what the consensus in the fantasy community is, and I definitely see that. I don't know how we can keep him tight end eligibility into next year if he's going to keep doing that.
He can be quarterback, that's why.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough. But I just wanted to give us one last chance to mention Kyle Pitts, automatic third round Kyle Pitts.
Before we discuss the targets the players that we believe are going to be overshooting their ADP currently, Jay Red actually has a question, Jake, for you, and I know you can't read them, so I'll read them off to you here. He's in a 10-team PPR league, which is keepers. He has 2 wide receivers and 2 running backs as his starting lineups, just what you talked about before. He kept Leonard Fournette for 9th round pick, obviously great value.
Yeah, definitely.
Because he kept Leonard Fournette, should he still take 2 running backs? I think you had him scared now because he should go running back heavy in his draft.
I would say 1 pick in your first 3 rounds should be your RB2. Solidify that. Definitely
so
1
not
pick.
Even going 3 running backs, you're just saying
you could go 3 running backs. It's safe, but again, you have to read the room, right? I would admit, exactly just because you kept 1 running back doesn't mean you automatically go wide receiver, quarterback. You definitely need
Jay's a longtime listener of the show, so I know he already knows this. But for everyone out there just new to it or clicking on for the first time, Jake and I, neither of us will ever tell you must do something every round. That's especially in the beginning of the draft. You have to be flexible with what the rest of the board is giving you. If a Travis Etienne in a full point PPR format falls back to you in the second round, maybe you consider that. There's your extra running back. Or you have an Aaron Jones, who I love, or a Derrick Henry later in the first round ends up being there, who Jake loves. You have to make those picks and give you what the board is.
Derrick Henry at 8-9 overall is just my fantasy wet dream. Yes. I would be so happy
you
with
can
that.
have that 8-9 pick every single time. I despise it, and we've talked about that before. I despise that whole round because I don't like Derrick Henry as much. But we are going to get to that and more of our favorite guys that are going to exceed their ADPs currently. Before we do that, though, let's get a word from our sponsors from Blue Wire. Obviously, the video audience, stick around for just a second here. Okay, we are back. And again, main focus for today, I'll be discussing the different ADP guys that we like that are at least going to exceed it. Now, I cheated with a few of my answers, Jake, which is pretty apropos for me. Like, I like to be a little bit outside the box thinking with a few of these questions. And you were very narrow in your thought process with these players. A quarterback in particular, I thought fits this definition to a T. But let's first discuss Derrick Henry briefly because you've talked about him a number of times.
Yeah, I mean,
hey, tell the listeners why you like Derrick Henry.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so I don't want to go to this at length because anyone that's been listening to me knows that I love Derrick Henry. I love him almost enough to be my personal RB2. And, he is our RB2 when we get to non-PPR formats here. If you're still playing the old school 0 PPR, he's definitely, no doubt, a top 3, I'll say. But I don't know. People, I think they prematurely are calling for his downfall. I think that he's only 28 years old, which is maybe a little old in running back years. But remember, he got pretty much half of the season last year to rest from his foot injury. And he came back for the playoffs. Yes, he did not look great in the playoffs. But the fact that team doctors and the team in general was even willing to let him back, he gets the 8 weeks to heal, back for the playoffs, gets then another full offseason to heal. The fact that he's coming off of a year, freak athlete, freak body, just a very, very strong runner, was the fantasy MVP for back-to-back years and was well on track to be the fantasy MVP last year here. I don't expect the injury to slow him down significantly. I expect him to come back, and we'll be talking about him being the number 1 or 2 overall pick in fantasy next year. So there's my quick Derrick Henry rant. We're going to call him number 9 in our players to target. If the graphic comes up, 9, because I don't want to go into this at length. I love Derrick Henry. Other people aren't quite on the same board, but he is one of my highest exposure guys already, and he's somebody that I'm going to continue to comfortably take, especially when you get him at the back half of drafts. I mean, I took him as high as 5 overall in a PPR league this summer, and I think that pretty much shows you where I'm at with that.
Again, people will look at this title and be like, "Oh, guys overshooting their ADP," and you'll think sleepers right away. And that's not what this podcast and what this show is going to be about, because sleepers are later round candidates, especially I think like past 12, round 12, who could do really well. It's not what we're going for, which is why Derrick Henry fits into this category. Yeah,
and the idea is Derrick Henry's ADP number 8 in the NFFC since the start of August, and he's my 4 or 5 player. So yes, he's going to outshoot the ADP for me.
I'm going to throw in pick 8. I guess we're going to be going down through this order of guys we like, and it's not on the order on the sheet. Sorry, Jake. I know that would be great if I figured that out.
You know what? Just hit me. Let's go.
I like Rachaad White quite a bit. Now, I think with his ADP, he's normally going around 11 through 13. It depends on which format, and I'll specify specifically in full point PPR leagues. I think Rachaad White, the running back for the Buccaneers, rookie running back, is the play to go with. Now, I discussed this on one of the YouTube videos we have right now on the RotoWire channel that Alan and I did together of the 8 later round running backs. Rachaad White's one of those guys I'm looking at. It's literally as simple as this. This is a pass-catching running back for the Buccaneers. I know Leonard Fournette can do that, and he certainly did it last year, but it was by necessity because Ronald Jones was the next best guy, and Giovanni Bernard, who I don't even think is in the league anymore, was the backup to that.
He's technically listed on the Bucs depth chart, 4th overall, injured.
Yeah, okay. So,
still around.
Yeah, he's technically running.
We'll see if he makes the team.
I think Rachaad White is going to be a guy that fills in really adequately as the pass catcher. And even though he doesn't have as much chemistry with Tom Brady, Mr. Purple Leopard himself and the Masked Singer, I do think Rachaad White's going to be an impactful guy that you're drafting as your fifth or sixth running back. He won't be a guy that I'd recommend as your first cut, but that offense is predicated on finding the right passing target every single time. And I think White is explosive enough, twitchy, right? That's the word we use too often to generalize somebody. I think he's a twitchy athlete, especially at the backfield. So I love him. Given his current ADP among running backs.
Yep, and he was targeted in college at Arizona State 50 times in just 11 games here. Caught 43 of those passes, getting over 10 yards per catch. So he's been very, very productive at the college level. We'll see if that can translate here. If anybody's going to, we'll see if he'll be Tom Brady's James White. Something like that. That's where I'm and even if he is, right away during his rookie season, that makes him a startable player even when Leonard Fournette is fully healthy and ready to go.
We had a listener bring up that pass protection might be a problem for Rachaad White. If you have a Ferrari, you don't keep it in the garage. I think you're not going to just be like, hey, really good pass runner out of the backfield. Just go ahead and block.
Hey, if this was the Patriots, then yes, pass protection, he would stay on the inactive list for the first six weeks. But I think they got just a little bit different way of doing things here in Tampa, and he'll find a way to get his shot. Fair enough. Pass protection could be an issue that might limit his snaps, but Rachaad White wasn't a guy that I had been particularly targeting. He's a guy that if he fell below his ADP, I'd be interested, but I can definitely see where you're coming from here, Joe.
Who's your next guy? Again, I guess we're going least to
I'm going to go
valued.
I'll just keep on the running back train because we're talking about running backs, and this is another running back that has inexplicably fallen to outside late second, early third round. And I need your help, Joe, helping me understand this. Nick Chubb, as it currently stands over the last 23 days, is 25 in NFFC ADP. And I guess I understand he doesn't catch as many passes as the counterpart in the team. And NFFC is a PPR format, but third round, for Nick Chubb, it just seems crazy to me. He's never been the most flashy fantasy guy, but I love getting him in Stake League. I think I've got him in Stake League maybe 2 of the last 3 years because he's somebody that people don't quite pay a crazy amount for. I get him for around $40, and he's consistent enough for me the entire year. Almost very close to having 4 consecutive 1,000-yard, 8-touchdown seasons, and he's only missed 7 games over those 4 seasons. So, yeah, he's missed some time with injuries, but consistent enough. I expect his volume to be safe with Kareem Hunt, that whole situation, holding in, whatever you want to call it. If they trade Kareem Hunt and, maybe they get another guy to fill this role. But I think that means that Nick Chubb is going to get plenty of work. And yes, they've got some quarterback woes, and they're losing J.C. Tretter, their center. RotoWire still ranks the Browns as the number 4 overall offensive line.
I don't agree with that, by the way.
Yeah.
I don't think they're that good. I have questions with a lot of the offensive line ratings, which is fine. So
a part of it is Jack Conklin's back at right tackle after missing last year. So they lose a guy, they gain a guy. The unit is still largely pretty cohesive. And as you see how our Packers have done, they've been able to replace centers like J.C. Tretter, great center, but also a seemingly replaceable position on the offense. I shouldn't talk junk about center. That's my position.
You can pick apart every offensive line. So is the 4th offensive line that much better than the 14th one? That's more or less my thought. They're a good offensive line, not great. I think
fair enough,
and that's sort of where
it's not a bad offensive line, which is good enough for a bullet point on my list here. And if I go back to 2021, the advanced stats seem to like Chubb a lot. Number 6 in broken tackle rank. I filtered these to players with 150 attempts to get these guys. So number 6 in broken tackle rate, number 5 in positive rush rate, number 3 in yards after contact here. So it's the eye test works, the advanced metrics works, the team situation and role for me seems to work. So for him, he's down in round 3 at 25 overall. I think this is the player in the 3rd round. Now, I guess very tough, loose definition of 3rd round. But if you told me pick one 3rd rounder that is going to return 1st round value for you, it's Nick Chubb. I prefer Nick Chubb to Leonard Fournette. I prefer him to Javonte Williams, and it gets really, really close with Aaron Jones. I'm still taking Aaron Jones, but if I didn't have that slight bit of Packer bias in me, I could easily see me taking Chubb. I think he's being undervalued, and this is targets. The whole show is targets to outperform their ADP. I think Chubb has just as good of anyone to be back in the conversation, to be at that turn in 2023, and say you're taking 5 overall and you start with Cooper Kupp or Justin Jefferson. If Nick Chubb's coming back to me and Aaron Jones isn't on the board, I think that's where I'm taking Chubb for sure, because I don't trust him to get back to me at all, and he shouldn't get back to you at all if guys know what they're doing.
Yeah, and that's this is the important clarification with the ADP we're using with the NFFC, again, kind of partner with us. Full point PPR format. If you're playing on ESPN or Yahoo and you're in a half point or even standard setting, I bet you Nick Chubb is an early second, mid-round second caliber player. It all depends on the ADP you're using. I have no idea what my fantasy league, which is a popular one that we use among the experts, where Nick Chubb
ranks. I believe Fantrax has some good non-PPR ADP too. I'm going to double check that actually now.
So I mean that's the qualification for me is that, hey, in a full point PPR format, I will take Leonard Fournette over Nick Chubb. Do I think Nick Chubb is a worse player than Fournette? Absolutely not. I think Nick Chubb is one of the best running backs in the entire league. But we are talking about a offense that, okay, they might have a good offensive line, but they have Jacoby Brissett as of right now playing quarterback. We saw how bad that was for the Dolphins at times last season. And even if you are one of the best running backs in the league, I think there's going to be a situation where in that AFC North division, you're bottling up that type of offense with Brissett as your quarterback. That's my biggest concern.
Okay, fair enough.
And why, I mean, he still can, and especially in a standard setting, I will gladly take him where you're saying in a full point. No.
If I'm looking at Fantrax, he's 17 overall, so that's actually quite the disparity, and that's about right where I put him here. And the quarterback has some worries. I can give you that argument. That's the biggest knock. If I ask, explain to me why he's 25, there is your explanation right there. So that's the biggest knock on someone like Nick Chubb. But I'm still going to try to scoop him up today. I think he brings a certain amount of safety and a certain amount of floor, and with some potential for some pretty big games. And I really like the guy, so I'm just going to roll with it. And who knows? Maybe they end up trading for Gardner Minshew. We'll see.
Oh yeah, that's.
I saw some kind of graphic about a proposed Gardner Minshew trade that involved Kareem Hunt, and I'm like, well, that could be fun. Maybe they upgrade, or who knows? Maybe Brissett somehow gets better. We'll see.
Okay, all right.
Relentless optimism to support my point, I guess. But so I mean, in summary, that's the story. Nick Chubb has a million things in the pros column working for him, and there's the one thing in the cons column that's quarterback play, and that's enough to shoot his ADP from like 12 to 25 this year. So I don't know. You tell me if you agree with that or not. Fantasy is about making your own decision. You just got all the facts. So what do you think?
I know I'm going to be nominating Nick Chubb right away. That's what I'm going to be saying in our stake league.
Right on. I'm nominating Pitts right away. Let you guys fight over him.
I'll probably have to pass on that one. That'll be the only redraft I don't get him in.
Well, I don't. Is Mario in our auction? I saw you got replaced by Nick. So all right. Anyway,
next up on the list is a guy named Rondale Moore, wide receiver for the Cardinals. This is where I'm cheating, to be honest. Again, the idea is which player is going to exceed their average draft position. At least Rondale Moore right now is going about the 9th or 10th round in NFFC full point PPR formats. If you said, Joe, today Rondale Moore will exceed that, I would be very hesitant. I'm not sure I would agree with you. But in the first 6 weeks of the season, Rondale Moore is going to be a guy that you're starting in your lineups just about every time. I used Christian Kirk to the same extent last year as a flex or wide receiver 3, and I think that's exactly where Rondale Moore fits as we wait out DeAndre Hopkins' suspension. I'm not convinced Marquise Brown is going to be healthy either this year. He missed a decent portion of the preseason with that hamstring injury. He's had issues with that in the past, and I know the Cardinals' offense overall is inconsistent. In fact, we're going to do our over-under show next week, whether or not we think the Cardinals are going to have, or any team, right, over their wins or whatever, right? Same concept. I will take the under on the Cardinals just about every time. I don't think they are a good football team. This is Cliff Kingsbury. They're going to pass the ball. Inefficiently, yes. Very badly, yes. But they will pass the ball plenty. The Cardinals' defense got significantly worse this year too. So by default, that's going to put the offense on the field more. And we saw how good Christian Kirk could be in that offense last year. And that's kind of by default. If you think A.J. Green, Marquise Brown, Rondale Moore is going to be the guy that runs those slot vertical threats. I like Rondale Moore quite a bit for his current price for the first 6 weeks. Who knows? You could even trade him if he ends up popping off pretty big and be able to reap the rewards if DeAndre Hopkins does come back and looks like himself. I think there's a lot of scenarios where Rondale Moore far exceeds his value within the first 6 weeks.
Yeah, Rondale Moore's interesting for me. So he's a guy that I haven't been specifically targeting because I disagree with, Marquise Brown is 100% right now, no injury tag, maybe something happens. And, fair enough. DeAndre Hopkins is missing the first 6 games. We have AJ Green ahead of Rondale Moore on the depth chart. I think that's wrong. Rondale Moore should be number 3, and he'll get used in creative rushing situations too, which is what I like. But the only place I have Rondale Moore so far is a 14-team Sirius XM Invitational in which I ended up drafting Kyler Murray. I got him maybe in like the 5th or 6th round of a 14-teamer, and I thought that was I thought that was pretty juicy given the depth of the league here and the fact that, with 14 teams, there's a little bit more of a tier difference and you want to get that high scorer. So, and I took Rondale Moore in that league because I already have Murray. I long missed out on Hopkins. I missed out on Marquise Brown. And I want to get a cheap stack with a ton of upside, basically, right? I wanted to be able to maximize my points from somebody that people aren't necessarily paying for. Now, when I look at him in context of ADP, however, that's when things get a little bit interesting for me. Rondale Moore is 113 overall in the NFFC, which is understanding because he should be able to catch a lot of passes and as opposed to being a big play guy. But then I start looking down the list of wide receivers, MVS, that's kind of a wash, maybe a slight lean towards Moore.
Every time, yeah.
I like Michael Gallup maybe a little bit more than Moore. I think I didn't put Michael Gallup on this list, but I think people are going to underestimate him a little bit. What's the deal with Gallup? He's not even going to play at all still?
Well, I don't know if he comes back before November.
All right.
We're looking at maybe the first 6 to 7 weeks of the season. If that's the case, it's kind of the same comparison.
Oh, yeah. I guess he did have a January 2nd ACL situation. So hey, maybe you get them both if you're torn on receivers late in the draft. Get Rondale Moore for the first 6 weeks, and then flip him to Gallup in the next 6 weeks. For what it's worth, Gallup did catch passes while running routes this past Thursday for the first time since tearing his ACL. Okay, now I understand the situation Gallup here, and that makes it. But then you get to DJ Shark, Jarvis Landry. You're definitely Rondale Moore over that.
Yeah. So I almost over Landry. I think he's toast.
You think Landry's toast? Yes. Yeah, I almost like Landry a little bit. I feel like there's safety, especially in PPR formats, but I guess we're going to wait and see. I've taken him in a couple of best balls just to give me a little bit of a floor every week, but also Michael Thomas, if he's going to come out and be that guy, that's interesting. So, I guess, I don't really agree or disagree that crazy amount. I know that's not crazy for the show, but I'll tell you what, it's not someone I'm specifically targeting at the same level you are, but I do see the rationale and I do take him when the price and team context is right for me. So I guess that's affirmation if I can put it that way.
Who's the next guy that you have on your list, Jake?
Let's just talk about another Cardinal, a guy I like for a lot of the same reasons that you mentioned, and that will probably be good early on. And that's Zach Ertz here. People are forgetting about Zach Ertz a little bit, and I think he is underrated on this year's tight end rankings. He's 31 years old, so some people might run that, but guess who's older than that? Travis Kelce, first round, early second round pick. So you can't really dock him for that. He basically had a career revival in Arizona last year. And I look, it's not always fair to take the end of season sample size, but I look from weeks 14 through 16 last year. He ran 206 routes in those 5 weeks, 12.5 PPR points per week over that span. I expect the target volume to be sustainable without DeAndre Hopkins back. There's no meaningful competition on the tight end area of the depth chart for him. Air raid offense, a lot of passes are going to be thrown. He's fresh. He's out of Philadelphia. He's ready to go. I think we continue to see some of that momentum. I mean, if he was able to come in and be a functional, basically tight end one in fantasy during his entirety of his time with Arizona, give him the full offseason, the full training camp, working with the same quarterback in a similar system here, and he should be good to go. And, in terms of outperforming his ADP, on my personal ranks, I rank him higher, and this isn't how the ADP is going right now. Personally, I would rank him higher than, let's see, I have a list here. I rank him ahead of Dalton Schultz. I rank him ahead of Dallas Goedert. And I put him pretty much neck and neck with TJ Hawkinson. But little by little, I'm starting to convince that I'm almost ready, to move Ertz over him. But it's really close. I do like Hawkinson as well this year. I think that offense will be much better. Maybe that's some of the hard knocks hype blinded me a little bit of the overall squad there. But yeah, I think he'll perform 20 spots above his ADP, or at least a couple spots, which takes him from borderline tight end, or from low end tight end one to productive tight end one. That maybe won't be a league winner, but definitely not a league loser.
Man, so that's interesting. If you said Zach Ertz will outperform his ADP, I'm like, yeah, I think that's reasonable. I really have no arguments before it, especially in a full point PPR format. What he did after the trade to the Cardinals last season was more than enough for a low end tight end one, or really middle of the pack tight end one. I think he was. Did you say that he was like tight end 5 or 6 after the trade occurred to the Cardinals?
I didn't have the ranking, but I guarantee if you're getting 12 points a week, that's definitely putting you tight end 5 or 6 range.
I think that was more or less close. I remember seeing a graphic towards the end of last season, although don't quote me if I'm wrong on that. But if you were to say, I think Zach Ertz is going to outscore Dallas Goedert and TJ Hawkinson, I'm going to go, whoa, wait a minute here. I think Dallas Goedert is really in contention for a top 5 tight end spot. I love Hawkinson right now in his round 7 value. And I think before of the 3 short yardage Lions pass catchers, DeAndre Swift, Hawkinson, and Amon-Ra St. Brown, I think it's going to be Hawkinson that emerges over all 3 of those. I don't want to fade either one of them. The reason I don't have Zach Ertz, at least on my draft or like on my mentions list, is not even that I don't think he's going to exceed his ADP. My tight end strategy is just vastly different. Mm-hmm. I'm going to take Mark Andrews or Kyle Pitts just about every time I can. Mm-hmm. And by default, I'm not going to worry about it later.
Yeah, that's almost not fair. If you're talking about Kyle Pitts as your 85%, roster ownership rate here, then, any other tight end is pretty much off your board. Unless you double up on the tight ends and
George
go
Kittle, that's what
and go the Pitts and Kittle route.
the Joe Bartel. Hey, it worked last year. I had to go back to the well on it.
Yeah, we'll give you that one for sure. All right, but I'm basically like, okay, I'll maybe take Kelsey if he gets back to me in the second round. I did take Andrews at the 2-3 turn once. Kyle Pitts, yes, third round, but sometimes team needs not letting me have that. Kittle and Waller, I'm kind of, I think the price is maybe a little too high. Schultz, I'm out. If I get to the Schultz, Hawkinson, Goddard tier, I'm just waiting and getting Ertz later on. That's how it's going so far, and I like it. I actually, in the last best ball I did, I took Kyle Pitts at the 6th pick of the 3rd round, and then Zach Ertz was out there in the 10th or the 5th pick of the 10th round. So I went ahead and grabbed him as my tight end 2 in a best ball, just in case, but also, who knows, maybe I'm taking 2 tight ends. So I did a little bit of you, only it was spread out a little further.
Okay, man, that's fair enough. We spent a lot of time on some of these later guys. I want to make sure we get to actually discuss some of our favorite guys who will exceed their ADP. So I'll discuss Chase Edmonds real quickly. Middle of the pack for me in terms of this list right now. I was really hot on Chase Edmonds to begin the month, really, as we were leading up to draft season. When I was constructing my rosters, it was a lot of wide receiver, a little bit early on, getting one of the running backs in that 4th or 5th round, the Elijah Mitchells, more or less, and thinking, hey, my RB3 will be Chase Edmonds. In the Vegas draft we did, again, way at the beginning of August, he actually was my RB2 in a full-point PPR format. I still am fine with that. I will make that choice every single time. But now with the way the ADPs have developed over the course of the month, I've been more or less getting Rashad Penny and Cordell Patterson as my RB3. And I like those guys more. So I will specify.
I love Rashad Penny even more with the Walker injury. Yeah, big time, all over Penny. I got him. Yeah, I'm getting him in every best ball I've done this week.
And Patterson, full-point PPR format every single time as well, too. Again, that's not to say I don't like Chase Edmonds, though. And I think Chase Edmonds, with this Dolphins offense, you look at the running backs they have, Raheem Mostert, Sonny Michel. I'm not convinced Michel is very good, and I know Mostert has those injury concerns, but they're going to take the carries away from each other. Yes, they'll take away some of Chase Edmonds' too, but I think Edmonds still does run a little bit. The most important part of this equation, he's by far their best pass catcher of the backfield. They have Myles Gaskin there for now, but I think Gaskin is literally simply just a backup and special teams guy for the Dolphins. The red zone targets they have, Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill, I don't think it's the Chiefs calling those plays for those guys. So by default, it's Gesicki and who else? Chase Edmonds. I think Chase Edmonds is by far one of my favorite bets to exceed his career touchdowns. I'm not sure what DraftKings or FanDuel has for that prop bet. Something we'll discuss next week. But if it's, let's say, 4.5, I will smash the over on those touchdowns. I love Chase Edmonds for around 8 or 9, running back 3 or 4.
Yeah, no Edmonds yet for me personally, but it's not because I have anything against him. It's just because team needs or my love for Rashad Penny has taken me elsewhere this year. I do think Waddle will get in the end zone mix, after that pretty much record-setting rookie year, assuming a little bit of progression from Tua. I think the receiver will find a way to do it. Gesicki, of course, will be in the mix as well here. But yeah, I'm cool with Evans. That's not a bad pick.
Who's your next guy?
All right. I think I mentioned him on the show before, but I have to talk about Juju Smith-Schuster because I researched this a little bit more, fleshed out this argument a little bit more. My argument was it always used to be kind of a gut narrative thing, right? Like, believe it or not, he's only 25 years old, guys. That being number one. And also, guess what? He's on a 1-year deal. This is a contract year. This is the time, if you're an NFL player, to make an impression and go out and get yourself paid. You saw what Christian Kirk got paid. Go out and get yourself, a 3-year, $80 million deal after this. This is his best chance to do so, with Patrick Mahomes being a giant upgrade at quarterback. Even if you're buying into the Mahomes, a little bit of regression narrative. If you think NFL defenses have started to figure him out by making him throw underneath, I know Jim Coventry, whose opinion I respect tremendously, takes that argument to not draft Mahomes this year. Even if you're buying into all of that, though, he's still a giant upgrade over Big Ben in his best years here, and that's what Juju Smith had to deal with here. And again, look through the rest of that depth chart. Sky Moore's a rookie. I know some people are pretty in on him, but still a rookie wide receiver. Marquez Valdes-Scantling, to me on this team, he's just more of a pure deep threat than anything. Mecole Hardman is Mecole Hardman. We don't know what we're going to get. No Tyreek Hill. Kelsey's still around. He'll be a target hog. He'll get a little bit more attention now, but I did promise I fleshed out this argument a little bit more. Last year Juju Smith-Schuster only played in a couple games, so I have to go back to 2020 and 2019 for more meaningful advanced stats. But among wide receivers who caught 40 passes, Juju was top 10 in both yards after catch percentage and catch rate, which tells you he's not dropping balls and he's making things happen on his own with his skill set. I also didn't quite make the outline, but I did see some graphics recently scrolling through social media. I got to do a better job keeping track of this.
Citing those ones.
Yeah, citing those exactly. But in 2019, his red zone separation and his red zone catch rate was also solid here. And I don't know how many looks he's going to get with Kelsey around, but every advanced metric seems to like this guy. He's in the best circumstance, where he has a clear path to be a wide receiver one. And, I've seen arguments all over the place. Who has the best chance to be this year's Cooper Kupp? Go from a mid round guy to, a possible top 5 receiver, top 10 receiver, if you will. And I think Juju fits that bill excellent. Since August 1st, his ADP is 55. He has came up with a little bit of a knee injury lately, so I guess we have to watch that. But I think he, out of all those guys, I'm checking. Yeah, he's got a little bit of a knee injury, so we'll see where that goes here. Still have a couple weeks to get right. He's one of my dudes this year, and I think I'm going to go after him because I don't know. I think it's too fresh in his mind. He got injured and he burned them. And
no, I agree.
And I think you can buy low on that opportunity for sure.
So he's a perfect candidate in the auction draft, which again we'll be doing tonight, where I would like to target a guy like Smith-Schuster. The price tag right now, 5th or 6th round ADP, right, more or less?
Yeah, it's, what do I have, 55? So
the issue is I'm drafting Elijah Mitchell or the guy I'm just about to mention here in the 5th round every time when I'm constructing my redraft rosters. In an auction, I can go get any player I want for whatever price I want. And I like the price tag for Smith-Schuster. There's no reason why I'm not drafting him from that perspective. It's just redraft. I have other ways in which I'm constructing my roster, which makes me unable to draft him. Mm-hmm. This is a perfect scenario today where I can go ahead and get him as long as I'm not getting outpriced by you too much.
And the thing is he doesn't really break the bank necessarily. No. I feel like he'll go between $15 and $20 today. The RotoWire software for our stake league format here, we priced him out at $17, and that's like, if you want to go ahead and get someone like Justin Jefferson, you're well up over 50, maybe into $60. This helps you have a little bit more balanced attack, and I feel like it gives you the best of both worlds because it gives you a reasonably priced wide receiver to possibly, as if you go for one of those one guys, you take one stud and a couple dollar players, or you take three $20 players. So the three $20 players is typically the safer strategy, in our stake league auction that's coming up, because you want to have the higher floor for your overall team to make sure you get in that top half. But on top of that, Juju could just blow up too, and he could be a league winning type of player. That's why I took him. I paired him with Mahomes in the RotoWire Invitational, and maybe I'm regretting passing on the Herbert Williams combo over those guys instead. But I'm going to stick to my guns for now here. I made my bet. I'm going to lay down in it, and I think Schuster's best of both worlds. Once again, it looks like he's going to return to practice this week, though, so nothing too serious with the knee injury, I hope. That's why he's one of my dudes this year, and I think he'll shatter that ADP.
Yeah, one of the guys that I mentioned again, Elijah Mitchell, I'm drafting in the 5th round. At this point, he's risen a little bit higher than that. It's J.K. Dobbins, and I think I've been pounding the table for him quite a bit now throughout draft season. Just want to reiterate, totally in on Dobbins and completely invested in his ADP, which at this point is like 3rd or 4th round for the most part. I understand John Harbaugh, head coach of the Ravens, has not guaranteed Dobbins will be ready for week 1, and Dobbins has done the reverse. He is guaranteed he'll be ready for practice last week, much less week 1 of the regular season. That doesn't matter to me. I think Dobbins, even if he misses a game or two as he gets fully back, is more than fine for a 4th round selection. He's, again, a running back in an auction format where I can go get Elijah Mitchell and Dobbins. I will gladly do so. We forget, we haven't seen him since his rookie year when he averaged 6 yards per carry. 6 yards per carry as a running back who got almost 155 touches for the Ravens. Lamar Jackson is there, which will continue to make J.K. Dobbins a threat on the ground because you have to be aware what Jackson will do. And more importantly for me, Dobbins had 9 touchdowns on just 155 carries. Maybe that regression falls a little bit as Dobbins gets more touches, but I don't think it's going to be substantial. If you get like 220 overall touches between catches and carries, that's where I think Dobbins lies. And if that does happen, we're talking about a top 15, top 10 running back easily, even in non-PPR formats. I think Dobbins is an incredible value in that Ravens offense, and I'm drafting him just about every time I can if the situation works out.
Yeah, I mean, just to counter this and play devil's advocate like I have, I've always, the counter argument has been the Ravens backfield and Lamar Jackson and possibly 2-3 other running backs rotating in and vulturing some of the work that, should rightfully go to Dobbins, but they split it out a little bit more. But I almost think that argument, the more I look at it, is countered by the fact that there's really a lack of established true number one pass catchers here. Obviously, there's Mark Andrews, but, we're buying Rashad Bateman as this top guy that's going to lead this whole receiving core, and Devin Duvernay is number 2, who I bet you if you're not in the fantasy football community, even some in the community probably
he doesn't preseason
doesn't know exactly what that is. So and we have him at the tight end position anyway.
He is, but everyone. So they're okay. So we have a question on the chat real quick, and it's, who's your favorite preseason guys who have performed better than you? My answer is, I don't give a about preseason whatsoever. It really does not change my opinion whatsoever. I care more about the training camp practices, like a Romeo Dobbs is looking pretty good, that kind of thing. It does not matter to me. Isaiah Likely is probably going to be something that will be answered in every way.
Guys, learn your lesson from Marquez Callaway last year. Everybody needs to learn their lesson from Marquez Callaway. That is the most important thing that we can do. I mean, I know Eric Segrist, he responded to my tweet about about our stake league draft, planting his flag with Lance McCutcheon from the Rams, Right. But again, exactly. You're being facetious there because Marquez Callaway had the best circumstances ever and looked outstanding in the preseason, right? And just everyone remember him and go back to that and learn a lesson from there, because I think that's what you really have to do.
So when I say Isaiah Likely, again, tight end, but he was doing some pretty cool. I mean, he's a good player. I'm not saying he's not a bad prospect whatsoever, but that's what we have to understand, is that these guys are playing the preseason and being performers in the preseason for a reason, going against second and third stringers for the most part. I'm not convinced. So back to your original point, Mark Andrews, Rashad Bateman, that's your 1 and 2 targets. And then after that's Duvernay, Isaiah Likely. I don't know. It is a hard spot to be. And it's why I love Dobbins quite a bit.
And possibly screen passes.
Yeah. Is this your favorite guy then overall? We're at that point of the list, right?
Oh no, I didn't. If I did my favorite guys overall, it would probably be Chubb and Juju.
Oh man, I thought we did this. I did it intentionally.
Oh, at least
mine will be the favorite. Jake.
Okay, fine. All right, fine. I'll do mine. I saved this one for last because it's a little bit of a homer pull, but I think he still continues to be disrespected, and that is my man Aaron Rodgers here. And I talk about quarterbacks being able to wait and get good quarterbacks. And this is the perfect example because Aaron Rodgers, back-to-back MVP, is QB 14 in fantasy here. And I think everybody's maybe overreacting just a little bit to Davante Adams being gone. So I went back, 2019 through 2021, looked at the 7 games. What do we have? Yeah, 7 games without Davante Adams. He went out and averaged 27.3 fantasy points per game. Now, there were a couple of bad outliers in there. There was a 11.8 fantasy point game, also negated by a 48.1 fantasy point game. So he can absolutely. So if you want to talk outliers, it can go both ways. We can play. Two can play at this game. No, I'm just anticipating the argument here. But he's QB 14, 112 overall. I'm not buying it here. He's shown he can produce without Adams. He's got the best dual threat rushing attack in the league, one of which is an exceptional pass catcher in Aaron Jones. He likes the tight end. We expect to get Tunyon back at some point. I'm comfortable enough with Lazard and Cobb, and we just got to get something out of Sammy Watkins or the rookies, and we'll be just fine. I'm still not sure about the Dobbs hype. We'll see. I'll believe that when I see it, but I think there's enough there for him to throw to, find his guys that he trusts, and continue to be one of the more productive offenses in the league. And the only concern, I guess, with him is with how good the defense is going to be this year, how much better they're going to be. Will he need to sling it as much as he has in the past year? But yeah, I think the way his season ended last year and the fact that they don't have Adams, he's being a little disrespected, even so much so that he's being ranked below your guy.
Yes, my guy, Derek Carr. And I'm going to circle back to Derek Carr, I promise, because I really believe this is the best value in terms of person who's going to exceed their ADP right now out there. But when it comes to Aaron Rodgers, I'm not worried about single game sample size. He's one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. Yeah, I think he'll be able to outperform expectations when his best receiver's gone. And yes, you can mention 4 years ago or 3 years ago what he did without Davante Adams in 2019 over a 4-game stretch.
Mm-hmm.
I think NFL defenses can game plan for the current pass-catching core for the Packers better because they're expecting it to change or expect to be the same throughout the entire season. Maybe Dobbs does well or Alan Lazard outperforms expectations, and I like Lazard. I've been drafting him everywhere. That's like I get that. But we're talking about 17 games of NFL defenses being able to figure it out. I think there's naturally going to be a regression point for Aaron Rodgers. I'm not drafting Aaron Rodgers as a QB1 this year. I am one of the people.
Unfortunately, you don't have to.
Yeah, you're right. But back to Derek Carr, who is actually, as of right now, I went to go check on the NFFC. Over the last week, Derek Carr and Aaron Rodgers have been drafted 13 and 14 overall among QBs, literally almost the same spot at 114 overall ADP.
There is 0.19 picks separation between Derek Carr and Aaron Rodgers right now. Derek Carr 111.96, Aaron Rodgers 112.15. 0.19 separation. These guys are neck and neck. And guess what? You can agree with us both and not have to draft either as a QB1. And this is why you wait on quarterbacks.
Yes. And so I've been drafting Lamar Jackson or Justin Herbert in rounds 3 or 7 because of the upside that's there. If I were to fade quarterback, Derek Carr is the biggest layup right now, I think, overall in terms of exceeding that ADP. We had 4,800 passing yards for Derek Carr last season. He attempted over 600 passes. Do I think he does that again this year? At least the passing attempts? Maybe not. But the Josh McDaniels offense is going to be having more opportunities than ever for the Raiders. I think there's a tempo pacing that was not there for John Gruden. And whereas we were doing these short, dinkier passes, McDaniels will do the same thing, but attacking defenses horizontally, which I think is really important. He has that chemistry with Davante Adams, we think, right, because of 10 years ago at Fresno State. I'm not convinced that's the case, but he certainly has the chemistry with Hunter Renfrow and Darren Waller. I think the offense is going to be better because of Davante Adams, even if Adams doesn't do what he's done with the Packers. That's hard to actually replicate, but he will be an important piece in that offense. If Derek Carr throws for 5,000 passing yards again, which I think is totally in play, and puts up, let's say, 25 or 28 touchdown passes instead of 23 last season, this is a guy that's an easy top 10 quarterback who you can start every week. The only concern for me, is that the AFC West is a pretty hard division. There's not going to be many times where I'm going to say, yes, you must start Derek Carr this week, but he will be a layup in the same way that we thought Ryan Tannehill would be layups often. I know the Titans, didn't live
quite
up
work
to that,
out last
right?
year.
So
I had drafted Tannehill as QB2 last year, and he's cut by week 4. But obviously that's not going to happen here with Carr. I can agree with you just fine. And hey, man, if anything, we like separate guys, different reasons. It shows you that you don't need to pay premium for a quarterback. Now, again, if one of these studs gets you in the 5th round, that's a magic number, man. 5th round for me. If one of these guys finds you, go get him, I guess. But you definitely don't have to do that and load up on your other skill positions for sure.
Well, I think I've successfully learned just about every one of your targets that you're going to be recommending in the stake league. I'll be excited to go ahead and have that. We're going to have articles. We have 2 different stake leagues. Obviously, it's 28 total teams, 14 team leagues. I imagine there's going to be an article written for both sides of things. You've normally done yours.
There will be content. I don't know if I did my side last year, but
somebody normally does. There's going to be content with the podcast to come. We'll probably recap that a little bit next week on Tuesday's podcast. We're also going to talk about the over-unders for every NFL team and a few of our favorite prop bets. This is normally my favorite pre-NFL podcast that we have going on because we're almost there. We are almost set to be able to talk about actual regular season pickups, free agent waiver wires, which we're doing every week during the season. So it's about that time, Jake. We're getting closer and closer to the start of the regular season, which is great.
Just a half hour, and we'll be getting. This is my first salary cap draft of the year, so I'm pumped. We've been talking a lot of junk. Us, our favorite tech guys across the wall over there. You guys, this is going to be fun, and we saved you guys from having to hear our whole draft recap here, but hopefully we gave you some good targets to consider in your drafts and your auctions here. So let's rock and roll.
All right. Thanks everyone for listening.